Elevator Systems, Bowen Family Systems Theory in brief for a life of learning. Welcome to another special episode of Elevator Systems. Today we are closing out our third season, which was all about relationships across the lifespan, by highlighting a book. Do you have it with you, Katie? I have mine. The Expanded Family Life Cycle by Monica McGoldrick and Betty Carter. I think, Katie, you referenced it in every episode, or at least you went to it for your own.
I think that potentially every episode. I definitely looked at it during and before every episode.
All of them, yeah. And then mine arrived in October when we were done recording everything. So I have it for future reference here. So you have the first edition, right? Didn't Dr. Bowen do a...
Yes, I have the one where Dr. Bowen did the introduction. Yep.
Okay, cool. I have the fourth edition because it was cheaper online. And then there is a fifth edition. So it is a well useful resource.
Yeah.
And I'm bringing this up because today we are sharing an interview that Katie and I did with Monica McGoldrick, all about the book, all about her thoughts on the family life cycle, and some memories from Dr. Bowen.
Yes, it was truly, Dixie, my fangirl moment of ending the season in this way.
Right? If we could get Meryl Streep on maybe next season, then I can have my moment. And
I think your get will be a little harder.
Yeah, a little more expensive. Yeah. So let me do a quick bio for Monica McGoldrick. She is the director of the Multicultural Family Institute in New Jersey, professor of clinical psychiatry at the Robert Wood Johnson Medical School. She received an honorary doctorate from Smith for her many contributions to psychology, a number of awards, spoken and written widely on a number of topics such as culture, class, gender, family life cycle, loss, genograms, remarried families, and siblings. And 3 books to highlight: the family life cycle, the expanded family life cycle, Ethnicity and the Family, and then the classic Genograms assessment and intervention, which I'm sure anyone who studied counseling or psychology knows. So that is what this episode is all about. But first we get to blather on a little bit about some other things.
Yeah, our season and just how exciting it is to have finished another season 3. And I'm gonna go first and say the thing that I really appreciated about this season was just the gift of going through, developmentally thinking about a family and their challenges. I just really appreciated thinking through the lens of Bowen Family Systems Theory about the family at these different places that they often go through. Not all families have the same, and really thinking of that variation. So it was just a real treat for me to go along on this journey. What about you?
For me, the highlight was I appreciated having guests who have lived or are living out each of these stages. And then I've been thinking about, it's one thing to have like theoretical knowledge about a stage of life, but it's another thing to like be walking in it, that those things are different. And I think Bowen theory as a framework, as I've gotten through, I don't know, half of my own life cycle, hopefully, or a little over, that it is such a useful framework, keeping that big picture, what's predictable, is helpful. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to highlight is we had our aging conference at Living Systems in October.
Yeah.
Well, we were both sort of chairs of the committee, so we've had
a busy
fall.
We have had a busy fall, but it was a good kind of culmination of the work of this season to end thinking with others. Some Bowen thinkers, some researchers outside of the Bowen community about this family process of aging.
Yeah, the title Individual Challenge or Family Opportunity is like, how are families and relationships helpful. Like we heard a few scientists speak on the challenges of isolation and the helpfulness of relationships.
Relationships, yes. It was not all doom and gloom. I think that I heard multiple people walk away from our conference saying that they had some optimism about areas of aging and the benefit to working on relationship as you age. So that was a positive takeaway.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Amy Post, I think, did such a great job of just getting clear on Bowen theory. And then we had some smaller presentations about caregiving for parents with dementia, caregiving across cultural expectations.
The sandwich did a presentation.
Yes, I did a little estate planning, how to have those conversations, how to not get lost in those conversations. And then the sandwich generation, which is such a huge thing these days. So if people are interested in the conference, I'll put a link up. You can purchase the recording. If you mention you've heard about it on the podcast, I'll figure out how to get you a discount. So I'll put up an email that you can be in touch with Living Systems about that. A few other Living Systems things. We have a Family of Origin course, a Lunch and Learn, which is the basics of Bowen theory, and then Bowen theory in ministry. Those are all things going on in the new year.
So if you're interested in these ideas, there's ways to learn more. And I think the other part is, I hope we've said it enough that there's lots of resources around both at Living Systems and around the network of people that can coach you and talk with you about these family ideas if you're interested. So that's another way that they can reach out to us if they need a resource, either in Living Systems or throughout the network of folks that can talk to you about thinking about your family and your work on differentiation.
Yeah, one-on-one. Yes. Finally, I guess a little teaser for season 4, which I need a few more naps before I'm ready to give season 4 my all. So it hopefully will come out early 2026. The hope is it will be about looking at mild, medium, and hot topics.
Yes.
And people keep saying, well, what do you mean? And I kind of think of I don't know, sex and politics and religion, those things that you don't talk about at the dinner table, or sports, how, that's fun, right? But the idea of, I hope we start the season thinking about individuality and togetherness and have some conversations about that and how those sort of forces might tip a mild topic into a hot topic.
Or our ability to have variation in that. And I think it's our continued effort to take this season and continue to take Bowen theory out into the world and see where this is a resource to people to use these ideas in their day-to-day life when they're, I'm not sure when this is going to be released, but I am about to head to the family for American Thanksgiving. So I am about to be out and about with family thinking about these things. So, continuing to think about how the theory can be a resource to people in their world.
Yes. Kathleen Smith, just on her Substack today, when we're recording today, but it's up online, had a revamped Thanksgiving bingo, really to watch yourself. So I love that. Yeah.
Tinted and ready.
Right. And then I noticed in the middle it says free space. I'm like, is that what I need just to go catch some air? or is that the standard bingo free space? Yeah.
Dealer's choice.
Yeah. I guess if people want to throw out their thoughts about what you want to hear on the podcast, or there's some areas that you're interested in still learning about, I'll throw an email address also in the show notes. It'll come to me. And I just love to hear people's thoughts. Katie and I can talk through it, especially about areas of theory that you want to think about that maybe we haven't touched on.
Or somebody you want to hear from. I mean, I think that maybe there's people in the network that you know of that we are less familiar with. So if there's someone in the network that you'd like to hear from, please send them our way.
Yeah. If you have a friendship with Meryl, maybe you can also.
Here we go.
Yes. Good. Well, I think is that our list of the blathering that we needed to do? I think
I think
that's
it is. I think
yeah.
it is. You guys will get a break from us. Enjoy your holiday season, and we will be back in 2026.
2026. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for tuning in to the season.
Yeah.
I hope the elevator rides have been helpful for people's thinking, like you say, as you go out to your everyday stuff. Yeah, keep listening, sharing the podcast. I keep telling all my clients I'm a walking cliche, a 40-year-old white woman with a podcast, but I think this one will be helpful for you, so I'm going to send you the link.
There you go.
So yeah, keep sharing it. We appreciate it. And now you get to hear our fun morning with Monica McGoldrick.
Thanks for being with us today, Monica.
Happy to be here.
Katie and I have known about your work. We've had your books on our shelves since our master's training, I'm sure. So it's a real honor to be talking with you today.
Great.
Yeah, well, we just finished recording 18 episodes of our podcast, and it was all about relationships across the lifespan from a Bowen theory perspective, from birth till death.
Great.
And Katie has referenced your book possibly in every episode. Do you want to hold it up, Katie? The Expanded
Yes.
Family Life Cycle, which you co-edited with Betty Carter. So yeah, my first question for you today is, how would you describe the difference in thinking about the family life cycle as opposed to just an individual going through stages of life?
Oh, to me, that's a very basic question because I think it's always about who we belong to. So it's never just our life cycle. It's always our life cycle in relation to the life cycle of the people who created us and the people who support us and the people who come after us. So it never would have made sense to me to think only of the individual life cycle, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough.
And when you had the idea to put this together in a book to kind of really outline and follow a family across the life cycle, what led to that coming into place?
Well, it wasn't me. It was Betty Carter initially. And it wasn't even Betty Carter. It was somebody who told Betty Carter she had to do this because she and I had trained together at a family institute in Westchester that Phil Guerin and Tom Fogarty ran. And we were both now beginning to present, and she went somewhere in the Midwest. We always saw it as family. So we were always thinking family. But it hadn't been defined as, and went sort of the individual's life cycle was what got written about and described for the most part. And she went somewhere and she was doing an early presentation and she organized it around the family life cycle. And some guy cornered her afterwards and said, "You have to write this up. This is just way too important." So she worked out the table of contents because it so happened that at the institute she and I had just started, we represented ourselves most of the stages of the life cycle, of the family life cycle. And so she said, we'll get our friends to write the different chapters. We can do this. We can write a book. Why can't we? We can. And so it was like, okay. And it just sort of happened because it was too obvious that it needed doing for us not to try. And so we got our friends who most all agreed to do what we suggested, and it just went from there because it was so basic to how you need to think if you're gonna be a family therapist and work contextually, you have to be thinking in terms of the family life cycle, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, that was I think our next question was how did you find it useful in clinical work?
I use it every day still. I mean, I'm always thinking and asking questions about, well, you're saying you're struggling with this with your kids. How did your father do when you were the same age as your son? You know, that you're always asking questions up and down the family tree. How would you hope your son would resolve this when he gets to be an adult himself and has to make these decisions? So we're always asking questions back and forth about the past and the future because
Yeah.
we are a part of all that came before and all that's going to come after, you know?
Monica, and when we work from a Bowen theory lens, I think we talk a lot about the difference it makes to the families. How have you observed over your career the difference that it makes when sitting with clients of opening that family lens, looking at that wider picture?
The difference it makes to the family.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess a lot of times it helps them to begin to think about, well, yeah, and I never really thought about what was my father's life like at my age. He's still alive, I could ask him. So you
Mm.
think of questions you could ask or questions you wish you had asked when somebody was alive if they're not. And less often, we might bring in family members and actually have them, because, if they don't live anywhere close, although now with Zoom, you can actually do a lot of interacting with people at a distance, of just saying, well, what was your son like as a teenager? And what did you find most difficult? And what would you most want him to know that you were feeling, kind of thing? You just try to expand how they're thinking about things to help them recognize the connections that we all have to the people who came before and the people who are with us and the people who are coming after us,
Yeah.
Which is a bit less than this is my dad's fault that I'm the way that I am. I think that broadening the lens takes that cause and effect piece, or I don't know if you'd have other, because that's pretty well, I think it's been a way of thinking for quite a few decades.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, and obviously that's not where we'd be going. People to, whose fault is it?
Mm.
But to repair things that haven't been addressed that were problematic, I mean, there's no reason not to try to get things to a better place. But it's not to blame anybody, it's just to try to make things work out better, you know?
I think one of the other things that you're pretty well known for is the use of the genogram. And I was wondering if you could talk about how you found the genogram a resource in thinking about the family developmentally.
I don't know how else to think about it. I mean, I can't resist. Listen, Mary Bowen couldn't resist drawing. I mean, I was just this morning thinking about him. I never saw him discuss a case that he didn't try to draw the genogram as he was telling the story, It was just, you got to be looking at who are people connected to, who are they part of, who was this one the daughter of, and how many siblings were there. And like you're always trying to contextualize who we are and help people to draw from who all they are, as they say, well, what do you want to do with your daughter now?
Yeah.
That's like, if I think of myself as a sister and a mother and a daughter and a niece, how would I want to think about it? I got to sort of put myself in all those categories,
Yeah, I appreciate it. I was thinking about it's so ingrained in me with all my years of Bowen theory training is to I was out with a friend the other day and they were talking about something and I was finding myself wanting a pen to
Yes.
just put it on it because it really helps me really think about the system.
Yeah. And once you have the people on the page, it's harder to forget that they matter,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. It changes something, I think, in someone's brain. I don't know if anyone's kind of hooked anyone up to brain equipment to watch this, but just it would be interesting to think about how it just shifts perspective a bit, I think, when people see that wider picture.
Yeah. Well, and also, I think, people get very stuck in, my father did this and it was really bad, whatever. And if you say, well, what would your great granddaughter, who probably won't be born for another 80 years, what would you want her to know about this and about you? Because that's a real question, like who is going to follow us? Who is going to come after us? And what would your great grandfather, who's already been dead for 80 years, what would he want you to be doing now? Those are great, important questions, I think, that we don't usually think about. But if you think about it, it's like, God, I never thought about what my great grandfather would want for me. But what do I also want for my great grandchild,
Yeah. Pops up all that curiosity.
Yeah. Well, and it helps you to see that you're not alone, even if you feel alone and you feel you have no support. You have the emotional support of the people who are going to be coming after you. So what would you want them to know? And of the people who came before,
That's so useful. I was sitting with a group of clinicians the other day and they were talking about kind of the triangle, the idea of a triangle in Bowen theory. And someone was asking about can people who are dead be a position on the triangle? And I think it was a good theoretical debate, but I appreciate what you just named as how thinking of the perspective of a great grandfather is a way to see them as a resource.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes you appreciate that those people, especially those that you remember and miss, could have an opinion about what you're going to do next.
Yeah.
So it really does matter, to include them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear that.
Yeah. Did you say you had some slides you wanted
Oh,
to
yeah. Wait a second.
share with us? Is this a good time for that?
Oh, I did want to mention, you mentioned something about older families and dealing with that. And I just finished this book, which is extremely interesting, about elderhood by a woman physician. Really interesting. That's that I think everybody should read. So yeah, so that's a really, really good book that challenges how we tend to think about older folk in this country.
That's so useful. In just a couple days, we're having a conference on aging across the life cycle, so that this will be a good thing to add to people's resource.
Yeah. It's a terrific book.
Mm.
Okay, so these are just a few quotes that we carry our history with us. It's not the past, it's the present. And I believe we can never leave home. One carries the shadows, dreams, fears, and dragons of home under one's skin, at the extreme corners of one's eyes, and possibly in the gristle of the earlobe. I love that one.
Yeah.
Maya Angelou. Okay, so this is sort of how I kind of, I mean, the best I could think of for drawing a systems context for understanding people, the person within the family and community, within nature and other life, moving from the past towards the future, that, we need to be thinking as inclusively as we can about all these things.
Mhm.
And this is something which came to mind only recently, that the life cycle is lived forwards, but can only be understood backwards, which is an interesting paradox,
Yeah.
that I had never really thought that much about it, that we have to understand it backwards, but live it towards what's next.
It's a good thought exercise to sit with that one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we ourselves are the embodied continuance of those who didn't live into our time, and others will be in our immortality on this earth, which is why it's so useful to think about what would your great grandfather think and what would your great granddaughter think.
Yeah.
But this is how I was trained to think when I was in school, that I was supposed to be a blank screen dealing with the intrapsychic self of the other person, which I never could manage to do.
Mm.
So I just gave it up and said, never mind. This is, it's all of me and my history
Mm.
dealing with all of you and your history. And, I just don't see, I can't be a blank screen and neither can you.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I've always appreciated that statement that you just said, that it's, my past history. I saw a quote one time where you said it's my genogram and my history sitting in front of the client's genogram and history. And I just think that's such a useful statement to think about, because it's the reality.
Yeah,
You go in there with you.
that's true. Yeah.
It's a much prettier slide too. I know it does complicate. It's a much
Mm.
more complicated slide, but it's more realistic and it's prettier.
Uh, but we've also, the life cycle has changed since
Mm.
1900, when
Yeah.
we had people had shorter lives. Now it's longer, and there's been re a redefinition about, the phases of the life cycle. So
Yeah.
that's changing.
That's so useful to add all those extra little layers too, and to think about how does that shift the family when there's these, just even this visual is so useful for me, for 4 phases in a life cycle versus, what is that, 8? Yeah,
Yeah.
like quite significantly different.
Yeah, it is.
And a lot of
Yes.
older years, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Way, way more. And having people having fewer children so that the phases of the life cycle are different in terms of
Mm.
after parenting and so forth.
Mhm.
Which is another piece of this context, I imagine. I sit with families who sometimes think about, knowing a grandparent or great grandparent generation where there were 8 or 9 kids, and to think about the difference in their life when they may not even have a child, or maybe thinking of not having children, and
Right,
just to imagine that context.
right, right. Yeah. Okay, so these are just a couple of different pictures of my genogram. This is
Mm.
made with a guy, Dan Morin's GenoPro.
Mm.
And here's another one that I sort of colored. This is my husband's family and my family and my son.
Yeah.
And this is Stinson, the
Mm.
one that you told me about.
Yeah.
We had a great conversation with him actually yesterday.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. I don't know if we're going to be able to work something with him, but this is the timeline in his genogram. I mean, I just made it up. This is just my son and my daughter-in-law and my grandson. But at the bottom, you can have a timeline, which is very handy. So
Yes.
because it's hard with the genogram to get sort of what happened when.
Hmm.
So that's, I think,
Because it makes it, I mean, I appreciate Patrick's efforts because I think it makes a person really think differently to see how the family context and patterns shift throughout
right.
throughout time. I think it just pops different things in my brain.
Yeah,
Or the emerging of a symptom after a loss, or
exactly.
mm,
But you can see all those things, and you can zero in like here's three things together that happened then that you might want to look at that time period in the family.
Mm.
mhm.
Yeah.
And I think he had a way of including societal things as well. Was there a sort of a color-coded, am I thinking of that
Uh,
correctly?
I don't
Or I
know.
suppose, or I suppose you could.
Yeah, I think you can do
Yeah.
lots.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I don't want to get into the
Mhm.
specifics why of what's difficult about it, but I mean there are limitations to what you can show with it because there's only so much. I mean, on any genogram, there are also limitations. You know, if I write my son's name and his birth date, I've already taken up a lot of the space around him.
Mm.
Mhm.
And so it's hard to write, he got sick in this year and he, got married in
Yeah.
that year and he did this, that, and the other thing that you can't, especially in a large family, it's difficult to write all the things you want to keep track of.
Yeah.
So being able to look at the timeline in relation to the genogram is very
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now there are also things that, let's say, are not on that, like what's your money situation? And
Mhm.
I do think that your money it's like your social class, your education, your
Health sometimes.
health, your financial situation. They're all important. And that of the people around you. If
Yeah.
somebody is in great need, who's your brother, are you going to not be able to help him? And isn't that going to affect you if you don't help him?
Yeah.
You know?
It's
So,
interesting that that was from 100 years ago.
yeah. So this is basically um, the best drawing I could make for like looking at time going along, sort of in a multi-contextual context,
Mm.
looking at the stressors that occur at different points and, trying to imagine the whole family
Mhm.
moving.
There's so much here, Monica, about how to cover about what an individual and a family is really up against in life. I mean, I think I really appreciate the way that it does try and really put it into one diagram to see all these challenges that people
Yeah,
have and the resources in there, I think as well.
right.
And that each person in the family would have their own,
Mm.
all
That,
of these
that
things.
it's very complicated because like what an illness means to the person themselves or the spouse or the parent of somebody who's ill is different from what it means to the cousin, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not the same thing, but it might be the same thing if you live together. It might be
Right.
it it just all depends on a lot of factors that it's just not not simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the point is how can you deal with the complexity and sort of hold it in your mind long enough to try to make a useful comment to a client?
Right.
You know? Anyway, well, I'm not going to go through all of it. Let's just leave it at that. I did want to just show a few of those images of
Yeah.
how I try to kind of find ways to keep in mind some of the complexities of people's demographics and migration and illnesses and life cycle.
So useful to really see. I mean, I think that it sounds like really what's come from your life work is really the importance of seeing that individual in that context that they are embedded in, and the resource that it is to a client as well.
Right. And when you get stuck with somebody that they're fixed on, but my father is a son of a gun.
Mm-hmm.
Well, tell me about your father's relationship with his own father. Like that changes the whole thing. It's like you have a whole other set of possibilities, perhaps, that he wasn't ready to think about that, but it does change the conversation.
Yeah. And then you get to figure out what to do with that. I appreciate that. I appreciate that comment about, what goes into someone seeing something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then what would you want your grandson to say about how you handled this situation now? That's a whole other story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me think of the short-term emotions that I have, which can often be quite immature. Versus what is the bigger purpose here? What is the maybe noble isn't the right word, but if I'm going to be a better human, for the other generations,
Yeah.
it does shift what my bitterness
Yeah.
is.
I was thinking about some of Dixie's end questions here that I thought would be so useful to add is, just thinking about your journey that you've done over the years. Do you think there's a phase of life across the family life cycle that's particularly hard for families that you've observed over the years? One that really kind of gets people?
Well, I think it probably used to be, especially if you didn't have much money, if you had a lot of children and they were young. I think, because it's like so many different needs, and your children's needs when they're young are large. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you have somebody who's got a serious illness and they need caretaking, who lives with you, that's also hard, but that could happen at any phase. So it's not like there's a particular phase harder. I think when people are going through a divorce, it's harder for the children, of course, and maybe for the extended family, to deal with those kinds of things.
Yeah. Everyone's renegotiating their space in that context.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to say, well, this one is harder than that one. It depends on the it's like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sitting in my mother-in-law's house this morning
well, there you
and
go.
hearing some stories about, I mean, she was a child in Holland, and she said the impact of that last winter where there was no food, and the impact that it had, on her parents, which then impacted the kids. And so yeah, that bigger looking at all of the circumstances and situations that a family's
Right. Living through war like she family would have been,
And I would feel like I would miss an opportunity here, that a lot of the folks that listen to us are people who are interested in Murray Bowen. So I feel like I would be missing an opportunity if I didn't ask if you had any stories to share that were useful, or not just that were interesting in your experience, and how interacting with Murray Bowen has shaped your thinking.
Oh, I would love to say. I was actually just trying to write something this morning about him, because I was talking to that guy Stinson yesterday.
Yeah.
Because he never knew Murray. And I had the good fortune that I did. And he was, people thought of him, some people thought of him as kind of a little stiff and whatever, but he was so generous. What I was thinking about is, when I was pretty young, but I was very interested in Bowen theory. I learned from Phil Guerin and Tom Fogarty, who were his students at the Family Institute they had in Westchester. And then, that's how I kind of got interested. And then we would go to the Georgetown annual meetings that the Bowen Center had. And along the way, I was very interested in Bowen theory, of course, and I was working further south than Westchester, so it was easier for me. I was able to get away, and Murray was teaching at the Medical College of Virginia once a month. He was teaching mainly the residents, and he was seeing 3 families, and he followed them for, I don't know, 16 years or something, a really long time. And they made videos from early times. And he invited me to go. I could just go, no charge. And I could watch the old videos. He let me watch, and he would call the people and just say, McGoldrick is coming down, and just show her whatever she wants to watch. And I did that for like once a month for like 4 years.
Wow.
For just, he just did it. He just said, that's fine. And then I was thinking that later on, we had problems with the Institute, and we ended up having a cutoff between Phil Guerin and the rest of us. And separated, and I was very distressed about it, and I called Murray and said, could I have a consult, and he said, well, he was coming to New York for some conference that Bateson and Margaret Mead were going to be presenting, and I could meet him there. So I was like, sure, great, I'll be there. And we met in his room, sat on his bed, and he's like, okay, so what's the problem? And so I started telling him about Phil, and then he said, oh, I need some paper and a pencil. And of course he had to draw that he had to do our genograms. And at the end of an hour of, he said, well, I told Phil he shouldn't go back to Westchester, because he was too involved with his family, blah, blah. I think he needs your support now. So I was not ready to take that advice, but I was very appreciative for how he understood the issues. I mean, it had to do with Guerin and his sister. He wanted to bring her in and make her an important figure, which we didn't think she was, and whatever. And then at the end of it, I said, so what do I owe you? And he's like, nothing. It's like,
wow.
Who does that, I mean, it was just amazing. And when I got interested in genograms, I wanted to interview him, which he was like, sure, when do you want to come? And he just made time, and it was like he didn't remember where the word genogram came from, but he didn't really like inventing language. He was like more inclined to use the word family diagram as a more regular thing than a genogram. But he was just, happy to talk. And I mean, obviously, genograms were his thing, whatever he called them. They were very central to how he tried to sort of arrange what his thinking systemically,
Yeah.
right? So
Thank you for sharing. It's just nice to hear about kind of how all these paths intersect and connect. And again, I think at least the three of us sitting in this room appreciate systemic thinking and how it helps organize the way we
yeah,
work. So thank
and I'm
you.
very fortunate that I had those chances with him. He was so generous.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to add to our conversation today? I think we got through our questions.
I just hope people stretch themselves to ask about what came before and what might come after, and the surround of, like paying attention. So,
I appreciate that. I think I'm walking away with a few questions I'm adding to my
good.
repertoire for my work. So thank you very much.
Yay. Well, I'm so happy to talk with you, and I wish you the best.
Yes. Thank you so much for making time for us today, Monica.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll put lots of links in the show notes for your work and other things that you've done. And so I hope the people who have tuned in today have taken lots of ideas to think and observe as you go out into your relationships.
This podcast is produced by Living Systems, a nonprofit organization in Vancouver offering counseling and training programs in Bowen family systems theory across Canada.